Hey guys. Today we step into a world where you suddenly notice what most people miss. Imagine you walk into a crowded cafe, and instead of being distracted by the clinking of mugs or the hum of conversation, your eyes automatically pick up the small flickers, the man drumming his fingers too fast on the table, the woman's smile stretched a little tighter than it should be, the teenager staring at the floor even though he's laughing along with his friends. In a split second, you can tell who's nervous, who's forcing confidence, and who is genuinely at ease. That's the kind of superpower people dream about. But here's the reality check. It's not superpowers at all. It's mind reading. Yes. But not the kind you see in movies. You're not hearing thoughts. You're reading signals. And here's the secret. Signals are everywhere. People broadcast what they feel through their posture, their tone, their micro-gestures, and even the rhythm of their breathing. The trick isn't to pry into someone's head. It's to pay attention to what's already spilling out. You've probably felt this instinct before. Someone says, "I'm fine," but you know they're not fine, even if you can't explain why. What you noticed was a mismatch. Their words said one thing. Their body told you another. Most people shrug it off. You're not going to. You're going to learn how to see, and once you learn, you'll never unsee. The first thing you need to accept is this. Mind reading isn't magic, but it is powerful. When you master it, you create social X-ray vision. At work, it tells you when a client isn't sold on your pitch, even if they're nodding politely. In love, it reveals when your partner is quietly hurting before the words come out. In everyday life, it saves you from wasting energy on conversations that aren't real, because you sense the truth beneath the surface. Now, let's bust the biggest myth before going further. Mind reading does not mean telepathy. You don't close your eyes, press your temples, and download someone's thoughts. What you're doing is noticing data. Communication scientists have measured this for decades, and the numbers are shocking. Only about 7% of communication is the actual words. 38% is tone of voice. 55% is body language. That means, if you're only listening to what people say, you're missing more than 90% of the message. Imagine reading a book, but skipping 9 out of 10 words. You'd never understand the story. Yet that's how most people live. You're going to read the whole story. But here's where we improve on the usual advice. Many so-called experts give you a list of tells. Crossed arms equal defensiveness. Looking away equals lying. Fidgeting means nervousness. That's too shallow. Real mind reading is not about memorizing stereotypes. It's about context. Crossed arms might mean defensiveness, sure, but they might also mean the person is cold or simply comfortable standing that way. If you jump to conclusions, you're not reading minds. You're projecting your own assumptions, and that's the fastest way to be wrong. So the first skill you train is observation without judgment. Think of yourself like a scientist collecting data. You're not labeling, not guessing, not moralizing. You're simply noticing. How does this person look when they're relaxed? How does their tone sound when they're telling a funny story? Where do their hands rest naturally? Once you've seen their baseline, then you can spot deviations. That moment when their voice flattens, or their body stiffens, or their breathing shortens. You've caught a shift, and shifts are where the truth hides. Picture this. You meet someone for the first time, and they're animated, smiling, gesturing widely. That's their baseline. The next time you see them, they're flat, quiet, barely moving. Your instinct says, something's wrong. And you're right. That's calibration. You've stored their normal state in your mental file. So when it changes, your radar beeps. People think you're psychic, but all you did was notice the difference. Now, here's where we go deeper than the standard advice. Calibration isn't just about the other person. It's also about you. Most people walk into interactions already clouded by their own stress, biases, or assumptions. If you're rushing, distracted, or secretly judgmental, you miss the signals right in front of you. To truly calibrate, you need to slow down your own system first. That means checking your own body. Are your shoulders tight? Is your jaw clenched? Are you breathing shallowly? If you are, your nervous system is too noisy to read someone else's. Calm your body, and suddenly you notice the tiny cues you were blind to before. Another place competitors often fall short is empathy. They treat mind reading like a trick to manipulate people. But if your goal is control, people will sense it. True mind reading is about connection. You're not asking, how can I exploit this? You're asking, what might this person be feeling, and how can I respect it? That mindset changes everything. When you approach people with genuine curiosity and kindness, their defenses drop. They open up without even realizing it, and you see them clearly. Empathy isn't softness. It's the sharpest tool in your kit. Let's try a thought experiment. You're in a business meeting. One manager sits back with arms crossed and foot tapping. Most people ignore them because they're silent. You don't. You notice the barrier, crossed arms, the impatience, foot tapping, the silence that says, I'm not on board. Instead of charging ahead, you pause and invite them. Do you have any thoughts on this? Suddenly, they lean forward and admit they had a concern, but didn't know how to bring it up. You've just changed the trajectory of the meeting, not because you spoke louder, but because you noticed what no one else did. That's observational empathy in action. Now, let's go even further. Mind reading doesn't just work in professional settings. It's life everywhere. Imagine your partner comes home, drops their bag, and says, "It was fine." You see the slump in their shoulders, the tight mouth, the shallow breath. You don't take fine at face value. You gently ask, "You don't seem fine. Want to talk?" And that one sentence prevents a night of silent distance. Or picture a teenager scrolling their phone at dinner, barely speaking. Instead of lecturing them about being present, you notice their hunched posture and downcast eyes. You say, "Rough day?" They shrug at first, but eventually, they open up. You didn't scold. You read. But don't think this is all heavy seriousness. Reading minds can be playful too. Next time you're at a cafe, do a people watching with purpose exercise. Try to guess emotional states from body language alone. Who's on a first date? Who's annoyed? Who's lost in thought? You won't always be right, but the practice sharpens your radar. Or watch a movie on mute and track the story through faces and gestures. It's like upgrading your eyes. And here's a powerful journaling exercise. After a conversation, jot down what you noticed. Did their tone shift? Did their hands move differently? Did their words match their face? Over time, you build a catalog of human patterns, and suddenly everyday interactions feel like an open book. Of course, with power comes responsibility. The more you notice, the more tempting it becomes to label people. Resist it. Don't treat someone's slouch as proof they're lazy, or their smile as proof they're fake. Always leave room for nuance. Signals tell you something is happening, but they don't always tell you why. That's where curiosity steps in. Instead of assuming, you explore. You ask gentle questions. You create space. That balance between observation and empathy is what keeps mind reading human, not manipulative. Think about how this shifts your presence in the world. Instead of rushing through conversations half distracted, you're fully attuned. Instead of missing red flags in a negotiation, you catch them before it's too late. Instead of being blindsided when a friend finally admits they've been struggling, you already sensed it and gave them space. You stop skating on the surface and start swimming in the currents beneath. That's why this isn't just a skill. It's a lifestyle. And once you've unlocked the first layer, you'll notice something else. People start to feel different around you. They might say, "I don't know why, but I feel comfortable talking to you." That's because you're not just hearing their words, you're seeing them. And to be seen is the deepest human need. So, let's recap in your own head. Not as a summary, but as a grounding. You've learned that mind reading isn't supernatural, it's observational. You've learned that more than 90% of communication is nonverbal. You've learned that calibration means noticing someone's baseline and their shifts. You've learned that empathy is the key to accuracy, because without caring, your readings become manipulative guesses. You've learned that exercises, people watching, silent movies, journaling, train your perception until it's second nature. And most importantly, you've learned that reading minds is not about power, it's about presence. Now, as you carry this forward, don't overthink. Just start watching, start noticing, start asking yourself, what am I seeing right now that words aren't saying? That's the doorway. Walk through it, and you'll find yourself in a richer, more honest world. One where people's inner states aren't mysteries, but invitations. And the best part? Once you learn to see, you can't go back. The world is brighter, sharper, more alive, because you finally understand the language everyone has been speaking all along. You notice quickly that words are flimsy. They float in the air like bubbles, colorful, light, but easy to pop. The body, though, the body never lies. Every muscle twitch, every flicker in the eyes, every shift in breathing tells a story. If you've ever been betrayed by your own body language, like saying, "I'm calm," while your foot taps a frantic beat, you already know this truth. The secret to reading minds is learning the body's vocabulary. And once you do, it's like unlocking subtitles on a movie you've been watching in a foreign language all your life. The first dictionary entry is the face. Your face is a canvas of 43 muscles, capable of more than 10,000 expressions. That's why poker players wear sunglasses and actors spend years mastering their control. Yet even the most polished performer can't stop micro-expressions. These are lightning-quick flashes of genuine emotion that burst out before the mask sets in. Less than a second long, they're like emotional hiccups, a twitch of disgust before someone forces a smile, a flicker of fear before they say, "I'm fine." Once you start noticing micro-expressions, you'll wonder how you ever missed them. Here's the twist. Most books gloss over. Micro-expressions aren't just about catching lies. They're about catching truth. Imagine your colleague nods at your idea, saying, "That sounds great." But you spot the millisecond of tightened lips and flared nostrils. That moment of tension tells you they're not convinced. It's not your cue to accuse them. It's your cue to adapt, to invite them in, to ask, "What's on your mind?" Without this awareness, you might walk away thinking you won. With it, you open a real conversation. The eyes are next, and here's where myths mislead people. Some say, look up and to the left means lying, or direct eye contact means truth. That's far too simplistic. The reality is subtler. Eyes are about attention, intention, and emotion. Steady, direct contact may show confidence or confrontation. Rapid blinking may mean nerves or overstimulation. Avoiding eye contact could be guilt or simply cultural habit. In some places, looking away is respect. The key isn't memorizing a chart of meanings. It's comparing eye behavior to the person's baseline. Does their gaze shift when a certain subject comes up? Do their pupils dilate when they mention a certain name? The eyes don't give you answers. They give you questions. Here's a powerful exercise. Watch interviews with the sound off. Politicians, celebrities, athletes. Notice how their eyes behave when they talk about victories versus defeats. Notice where they look when recalling versus imagining. The more you practice, the quicker your brain connects the dots in live conversations. Now, let's talk hands. Those restless storytellers attached to your wrists. Think about it. When people are open, their palms show. When they're closed off, their hands hide, stuffed in pockets, clenched into fists, or crossed behind their back. You don't even need to be conscious of this. Your nervous system already senses it. That's why a handshake feels better when the palm is firm and open versus limp or hidden. Hands soothe too. People touch their neck, face, or hair when they're nervous, as if comforting themselves. Notice it the next time someone is grilled with a hard question. They'll reach up without realizing. A quick brush of the jawline, a tug of the ear, a scratch at the temple. These gestures are the body whispering, I'm under stress. But here's the nuance others miss. Sometimes hands stop moving, and that silence is just as telling. A lively speaker suddenly freezes their gestures when asked a difficult question. The sudden stillness is a signal. You've touched a nerve. Most advice focuses on fidgeting, but stillness is its own signal, often more powerful. Shift your lens downward. Posture is like an emotional billboard. Leaning forward usually means interest. Leaning back can be evaluation or disengagement. A torso turned away may signal withdrawal, discomfort, even silent resistance. But context, again, is everything. Crossed arms. It could be defensiveness, or simply comfort if that's their habit. You can't assign meaning until you know the baseline. That's why calibration is your foundation. Without it, posture is just guesswork. And don't overlook the feet, the great truth-tellers. People control their face and hands, but rarely their feet. If someone's body is facing you but their toes point toward the exit, guess where they'd rather be? If two people in a group are interested in each other, watch where their feet aim. They'll betray attention more honestly than their words. Next time you're at a social gathering, watch the feet. It's like a secret compass pointing toward hidden desires. Finally, the breath. Breathing patterns betray emotional states instantly. Shallow, rapid breaths scream anxiety or excitement. Slow, deep breaths signal calm. A sudden sharp inhale marks surprise or stress. When someone pauses mid-sentence and holds their breath, it's often the body bracing itself for discomfort. The chest and diaphragm reveal more truth than a carefully rehearsed speech. And here's a layer most people miss. Your own breathing can influence theirs. If you sync your breath with someone else's, their nervous system unconsciously aligns with yours. This is rapport at the physiological level. So how do you put this into practice without creeping people out? By layering signals. Don't jump to conclusions from one gesture. Look for clusters. For example, your friend says they're fine. One signal, the flat tone, might mean anything. But combine that with arms crossed, eyes down, and shallow breathing. Now you have a cluster that screams, something's wrong. One clue is coincidence. 3 or more is a pattern. Picture yourself in a job interview. The candidate smiles, says they're excited, but their hands hide under the table. Their blinking speeds up when you ask about past jobs. Their feet edge toward the door. The cluster tells you their confidence is only surface deep. Instead of dismissing them, you explore. What made you decide to leave your last position? The question is gentle, but it opens a door. Without reading the body, you'd miss the deeper truth. Here's where we build what competitors rarely do. Training drills. Try the silent movie challenge. Put on a show, mute the sound, and write down what emotions you think are happening in each scene. Then unmute and see how close you were. Over time, you'll notice micro-expressions before you even realize you're noticing them. Another drill. Sit in a cafe for 15 minutes with no phone. Watch people walk in. Who seems tense? Who seems confident? Who just had an argument? Guess. Then see if their interactions confirm it. It's not about being right every time. It's about sharpening perception. And don't forget digital life. People think body language disappears online. Wrong. It just shifts forms. On video calls, people reveal themselves through camera angles, posture in the frame, frequency of muting, unmuting, the timing of responses. A colleague leaning back out of frame is the virtual version of pointing feet at the door. Someone typing LOL with no eye sparkle or lagging their laugh. That's incongruence in the digital realm. Mind reading adapts. It's not just for face-to-face. One more layer, and this is the advanced track. Micro movements. The swallow before answering. The weight shift from one foot to another. The lip twitch that flashes irritation before the words of agreement. These are whispers of the nervous system. You won't always catch them, but when you do, they're gold. The swallow when asked about goals, maybe insecurity. The twitch when they hear a certain name, maybe resentment. These are the sparks of real insight. You're not going to memorize all of this at once. Instead, think of yourself as building fluency in a new language. At first, you notice only the big signals, crossed arms, leaning away. Then you catch the subtler ones, micro-expressions, breathing shifts. Finally, you hear the full orchestra, the way face, eyes, hands, posture, feet, and breath play together. When you reach that level, conversations feel like music, and you're hearing every instrument. And remember, the body is honest, but it's not always clear. It tells you there's something going on. It doesn't always tell you what. That's why your stance is never accusation. It's curiosity. You don't say, "You're lying." You say, "I noticed you paused there. What were you thinking?" That's how you read without breaking trust. So from now on, whenever you talk with someone, ask yourself silently, what are their signals saying? Is their body matching their words? Where's the incongruence? You'll start noticing small things that shift your entire perspective. A sigh before, "I'm fine." A smile that doesn't touch the eyes. A handshake with a hidden tremor. These details aren't trivial. They're the raw material of truth. And as you keep practicing, you'll realize you've stepped into a new dimension of communication, Where others hear words, you hear symphonies. Where others see smiles, you see secrets. Where others get blindsided, you saw it coming 3 beats earlier. This isn't magic. It's mastery. And it's just beginning. You've now begun to notice the hidden signals the body leaks. And that gives you an incredible advantage. But observation alone is just the foundation. The next step is how you use that awareness to create connection. Because truthfully, what good is spotting someone's tension if they never feel safe enough to share it with you? What good is recognizing their excitement if you can't amplify it and meet them there? This is where mirroring comes in, the subtle art of making people feel understood without you uttering a single clever line. Think back to the last time you were really in sync with a close friend. You probably didn't even notice it, but your bodies and voices were harmonizing. You leaned forward at the same time, laughed in rhythm, even sipped your drinks nearly in unison. That wasn't coincidence. That was your nervous systems tuning into each other like radios on the same frequency. And the strange part is, you've been doing this unconsciously since you were a baby. Infants mirror their parents' facial expressions within days of birth. It's hardwired. All we're doing here is taking something natural and learning to use it intentionally. So, what is mirroring? It's reflecting someone's posture, gestures, tone, or rhythm in a way that tells their subconscious, we're alike. And in human psychology, likeness equals safety. When people sense sameness, they relax, they trust, and they open up. It's why couples who have been together for decades often start to look and act alike. It's why best friends pick up each other's slang. The brain says, "You're my tribe." Now, here's the important nuance. Mirroring is not mimicry. If you copy every gesture the instant someone makes it, you don't look connected, you look creepy. The key is subtlety and timing. You mirror with a slight delay, like you're following a rhythm, not pressing a copy button. If they cross their legs, you might shift your legs after a few moments. If they lean in, you gradually lean in too. If they talk quickly with excitement, you match their energy without parroting their exact words. Done right, it feels effortless. Done wrong, it feels like mockery. But let's add a layer that competitors rarely highlight. Emotional mirroring is more powerful than physical mirroring. People don't just want their movements matched, they want their feelings acknowledged. If someone is anxious, you don't slap on a big smile and say, "Cheer up." That creates dissonance. Instead, you meet them where they are, match their pace, their energy, their tone. Once you've joined them, you can guide them gently toward a calmer state. Psychologists call this pacing and leading. First you pace, aligning with their current state. Then you lead, introducing a softer, slower tone, relaxing your body, breathing deeper. More often than not, they follow without realizing. Picture your friend pacing the room, speaking rapidly about an upcoming exam. If you sit still and whisper, "Relax," they'll feel dismissed. Instead, you stand, walk with them, nod with their rhythm. When they see you're with them, their system relaxes. Then, as you both walk, you slow your steps, lower your tone. They begin to sync, without forcing anything. You've led them out of panic into calm. That's the magic of emotional mirroring. And let's push this further. Mirroring isn't just for friends, it's essential in professional life. Imagine meeting a client who is stiff and formal. If you burst in casual and jokey, they'll see you as unprofessional. But if you mirror their seriousness at first, they feel respected. Once trust is built, You can gradually introduce warmth and ease. This applies to job interviews, negotiations, even first dates. People feel safe when you match them. They feel drawn to you when you guide them. But here's the guardrail. Your intent must be pure. If you mirror someone just to manipulate, they'll sense it. Humans are wired to detect inauthenticity. You can't fake care. The moment your motive is selfish, the connection cracks. But if your motive is genuine, if you truly want to understand, to connect, then mirroring feels natural, even comforting, to the other person. That's why authenticity is non-negotiable. Let's practice this with some quick drills. Posture sync drill. Sit with someone you trust. Match their posture for a few minutes. Notice how the rhythm of the conversation shifts when you do. Speech rhythm. Drill. On your next call, consciously adjust your pace and volume to echo the other person's. Does the rapport feel different? Breathing sync. Drill. In a quiet chat, try aligning your breath with theirs. Inhale when they inhale. Exhale when they exhale. It's subtle, but watch how the connection deepens almost instantly. And don't underestimate micro-mirroring. Small signals that have big impact. A nod when they nod. A smile that mirrors theirs. Even sipping your drink after they sip theirs. These tiny echoes register in the subconscious as, "We're together." You don't need to overdo it. 1 or 2 subtle mirrors are enough to light up their mirror neurons and trigger that tribe feeling. Conflict is where mirroring shows its hidden power. Let's say 2 co-workers are in a heated argument. One is standing tall, arms crossed, voice raised. If you approach them whispering, "Calm down," you'll be ignored. Instead, you mirror just enough of their intensity to show you get it. You stand firm. You use a strong but calm tone. You acknowledge their frustration. Once they feel heard, you gradually ease your stance. Lower your voice. Their nervous system tracks yours down into calmer waters. This is influence without force. Now, let's talk pitfalls. The first mistake is over-mirroring. Copy everything, and you look like a parody. The second is being out of sync. If you mirror too late or too obviously, people notice. The third is forgetting empathy. Mirroring without care is manipulation, and manipulation never lasts. People may comply in the short term, but they won't trust you. Remember, your goal is connection, not control. Here's a scenario to illustrate. You walk into a cafe and strike up a chat with someone reading a book. They sit cross-legged, shoulders relaxed, speaking softly. If you plop down loudly, arms flailing, you break rapport before it starts. But if you settle in gently, mirror their calm tone, cross your legs after a beat, you create resonance. Soon they're leaning closer, sharing stories, and you both feel an instant click. What happened? You mirrored their state, then built a bridge to connection. But let's make this modern. Online communication also allows mirroring. In text, you can mirror someone's language style. If they use emojis, sprinkle in a few. If they type short, direct sentences, respond the same way. If they write long, flowing messages, match the rhythm. This creates subconscious comfort, even through a screen. On video calls, you can mirror gestures, nods, even energy levels. Digital doesn't kill connection, it just shifts the arena. Think of mirroring as dancing. One person makes a move, the other joins, then gently introduces a new step. That's the flow. It's not about dominance, it's about rhythm. And when you master that rhythm, people feel magnetically drawn to you without knowing why. So, As you go about your day, test it. With a friend, mirror their sitting position. With a colleague, match their tone. With a stranger, align your body angle. See how quickly conversations warm up. The more you practice, the less you'll think about it. It will become instinct. And when it does, you'll find yourself building trust faster than ever before. Because ultimately, mirroring isn't manipulation. It's empathy in motion. It's your body telling their body, I see you. I respect you. I'm with you. And when people feel seen, they open their minds, their hearts, and their trust. That's influence at its most natural and most powerful. You've already discovered how mirroring creates a bridge of connection. But there's another dimension that's just as vital. Listening beneath the surface of words. Words are slippery. People toss them around without realizing how much of their inner world they're revealing. They choose metaphors, phrases, even sentence structures that leak their beliefs, fears, and desires. If you only take language at face value, you miss the real story. But when you learn to decode the hidden signals in speech, you'll hear not just what's said, but what's meant. Think about a simple phrase like, I see what you mean. That's not just agreement. It's a window into how that person processes reality. Some people live through their eyes. They use visual words. See, look, imagine, picture this. Others live through their ears. That sounds right. I hear you. Let's talk it over. Still others live through their body sensations. I feel like this is right. That doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't click. These aren't just habits. They're filters shaping how they perceive the world. When you learn to catch those filters, you unlock a fast track to connection. If someone says, I just can't see how this will work, don't reply, I feel you. Instead, reply with their lens. Let's look at the big picture together. They'll feel you're speaking their language because, in a way, you are. This skill becomes even more powerful when you listen for metaphors. People casually drop imagery that maps their emotions. I'm drowning in work. That's overwhelm. I'm stuck. That's paralysis. I'm under pressure. That's weight and burden. These aren't random. They're emotional landscapes disguised as phrases. Reflect the metaphor back, and you validate their reality. You feel stuck. Let's see if we can move things forward. They instantly sense you understand them at a deeper level. But there's another layer most advice skips: presuppositions. These are assumptions hidden inside someone's words. If a colleague says, "Why does no one ever listen to me?" the hidden belief is, people don't care what I say. If a friend sighs, I know I'll mess this up again, the hidden belief is, I always fail. You're not just hearing a complaint. You're hearing a self-story that governs their behavior. Spotting presuppositions lets you understand what they truly believe about themselves and the world. And when you reflect those beliefs back with compassion, you open the door for change. Here's a live example. A teammate says, I always screw up presentations. Most people respond with shallow reassurance. No, you don't. You'll be fine. But you listen deeper. You hear the presupposition, I always fail, instead of brushing it off. You say, it sounds like your past presentations haven't gone the way you wanted. What would a successful one look like for you? Now you're engaging with their belief instead of fighting it. And that's how transformation begins. Another golden clue lies in what's not said. Silence is a language too. When someone hesitates before answering, skips over details, or avoids a topic, that gap is often louder than words. Ask, You pause there. What were you thinking? Done gently, it invites honesty. People often breathe relief when someone notices the silence, because deep down, they wanted to be asked. And let's not forget incongruence, when words and body clash. A person says, "I'm okay," but their eyes are down, shoulders tight, or they insist, "I'm confident," while their voice quivers. That mismatch is a neon sign. The body usually tells the truth while the words try to protect. Instead of accusing, you create safety. You say you're okay, but I sense you might be feeling something else. Want to talk about it? That blend of observation and compassion cracks walls without confrontation. Here's where we make it practical. Start listening to the sensory language people use. Write down phrases after conversations. Are they visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? Which metaphors pop up repeatedly? What presuppositions hide inside their sentences? This reflection builds your ear, just like journaling builds your eye for body language. Soon, you'll catch patterns in real time. And this isn't just about personal conversations. It's crucial in persuasion. If a client says, "I just don't see the value," don't reply. "I hear you." Reply, "Let's look at the numbers together." If someone says, "This doesn't feel right," don't bombard them with charts. Ask, "What would make this feel comfortable?" When you meet people in their sensory world, they feel understood. And when people feel understood, they're open to influence. But let's expand beyond the usual advice. What about digital conversations, where tone and body are muted? Language decoding becomes even more important. Online, people unconsciously reveal themselves in their typing. Do they use visual emojis? Do they say, "I hear you" in text, signaling an auditory filter? Do they write, "I feel like," over and over? These are breadcrumbs of personality left in plain sight, and if you mirror their style, you create instant resonance even through a screen. Now, here's a twist many overlook: the emotional charge of absolutes. Words like always or never rarely describe facts. They describe intensity. You never listen. I always fail. These are emotional exaggerations, not statistics. When you hear them, you're not meant to correct them. You're meant to sense the weight of frustration behind them. Correcting leads to argument. Acknowledging leads to release. It feels like you're not being heard. Tell me more. That's how you move past the wall of absolutes into the heart of the matter. Let's drill this. Next time you listen to someone, practice 3 levels of hearing. 1. Surface words. What's literally being said? 2. Filters and metaphors. Which sensory style? Which imagery? 3. Presuppositions and omissions. What beliefs or silences hide beneath? At first, it feels like juggling. Soon, it becomes second nature. You'll find yourself hearing 3 conversations at once: the one with words, the one with tone, and the one with beliefs. Consider a team member saying, "I can't see how this project will work." Surface level: doubt, filter, visual, presupposition. Projects like this often fail. Hidden need: reassurance through clarity. If you catch all that, your response shifts from defensive to collaborative. Let's lay it out visually, step by step, so you can see the whole path. That one sentence tells them you understand not just their words, but their mind. And the beauty of this is how it deepens relationships. When your partner says, "I feel invisible," you don't debate the word. You listen to the metaphor. They feel unseen. You answer not with logic, but with presence. eye contact, touch, words of recognition. Suddenly, the argument dissolves because you addressed the real need. Listening beneath words is not about catching people in lies. It's about honoring the truth they may not even know they're revealing. It's about noticing the hidden map in their language and walking with them through it. When you start to hear these layers, conversations stop being small talk. They become real talk. So the next time you're in a conversation, tune your ear. Listen to the pictures they paint, the sounds they describe, the feelings they confess without realizing. Listen to what they avoid, the pauses they can't explain. Listen for when their words and body don't match. Every phrase is a breadcrumb leading to their inner world. If you follow carefully, with curiosity and empathy, you'll arrive at the truth no one else hears. And when people feel that kind of understanding, they don't forget it. They trust you. They open to you. And they often say the words you'll hear again and again on this journey. I don't know why, but I feel like you really get me. That's not luck. That's you. Listening between the lines. You've practiced reading body signals, syncing through mirroring, and listening between the lines of language. Now comes one of the trickiest terrains, detecting deception. Not because you're suddenly turning into a human lie detector who calls people out with dramatic certainty, but because lies, half-truths, and omissions shape nearly every social interaction. People lie for protection, for convenience, for politeness, for shame. Sometimes they lie to shield themselves. Sometimes they lie because they don't trust you yet. Your goal isn't to accuse or expose. It's to recognize when the surface story doesn't match the hidden current, and to respond with awareness instead of naivety. First, let's ground ourselves in reality. There is no single gesture that proves lying. Touching the nose doesn't automatically mean dishonesty. Looking away doesn't guarantee deceit. What you're watching for is clusters of signals, especially when they deviate from someone's baseline. Think of it as puzzle pieces. One piece means nothing, 3 or 4 together, and the picture emerges. So why do people lie? Often, it's not malicious, it's survival. A teenager says, "I finished my homework," when they didn't, because they want to avoid conflict. A friend says, "I'm fine," when they're breaking inside, because they don't feel safe showing vulnerability. A coworker says, "The project is nearly done," when it's barely started, because they're ashamed to admit they're behind. Lies, in many cases, are shields. When you understand that, your perspective shifts. You stop seeing deception as an attack and start seeing it as a clue. This person doesn't feel safe enough to tell me the truth. So how do you detect the clue? Start with the eyes, but not in the cliché way. A liar may avoid eye contact, but so might a shy or anxious person. A liar may hold eye contact too strongly, as if overcompensating. What matters is change. If someone normally looks you in the eye but suddenly can't, or normally avoids gaze but suddenly stares, that's the deviation that matters. Next, listen for over-explaining. When people tell the truth, they usually keep it simple. When they lie, they often add unnecessary detail, like padding their story with fluff to sound convincing. I was at the store. It was about 4:32. I remember because I saw a red car, and I bought 3 bananas, not 4. The extra detail isn't clarity, it's camouflage. Now notice touching behaviors: face, nose, mouth, neck. These are self-soothing gestures when the body is under stress. Combine that with restless shifting or fidgeting, And you've got another puzzle piece. Again, not proof, but data. Another signal. Delayed response. Ask a question, and if someone repeats it back. Where was I last night? At home. It may be a stall to buy time. The brain is rehearsing. Truth usually flows quicker. Lies take a detour. But the sharpest clue is incongruence. Their words say one thing. Their body says another. I'm thrilled to be here, they mutter with flat tone and tight shoulders. I have no problem with you, they say, while their lips curl with a micro-expression of disgust. The story and the emotion don't match. That's when you trust your gut. Speaking of gut, let's talk intuition. Have you ever had the feeling someone wasn't being straight with you, but couldn't explain why? That's your subconscious picking up on micro cues, pauses, tone shifts, blink rates, muscle tension. Your brain notices the fragments faster than your conscious mind can process. That uneasy feeling is not magic. It's data you haven't decoded yet. Don't ignore it. Explore it. Here's the most powerful mindset shift. Lies point to fear, rarely malice. When someone deceives, it often means, I don't feel safe showing you my truth. So the question isn't, how do I catch them? But how do I create safety so they can lower their guard? That's why yelling, you're lying, never works. It pushes them deeper into hiding. Instead, curiosity works. That's interesting. You paused there. What's going on? Or, it's okay if that wasn't the full story. I just want to understand. Those invitations disarm defenses. Let's play this out. Your friend insists, I'm doing great. But their shoulders sag, their voice is flat, and they keep rubbing the back of their neck. You sense the disconnect. Instead of snapping, no, you're not. You say softly. You say you're okay, but I'm noticing some tension. Want to talk? 9 times out of 10, they exhale in relief. You've given them permission to be honest. That's not exposing lies. It's freeing truth. In a workplace scenario, deception often takes subtler forms. The project's almost done when it hasn't started. There are no issues when fires are raging. Here, listen for overconfidence masking insecurity, deflection shifting blame elsewhere, or vagueness avoiding specifics. Instead of pressing hard, ask clarifying questions. What does done look like? What's the next step? What challenges are you seeing? Their answers, or lack of them, reveal the truth without confrontation. Another advanced cue, emotional disconnect. When the emotion doesn't match the story. Someone describes a tragedy, but their voice is monotone, or they talk about a success with no sparkle. That mismatch tells you the story is rehearsed, not lived. So let's drill it with a step-by-step. 1. Baseline. What's their normal rhythm, tone, gestures? 2. Shift. What changes under pressure? 3. Cluster. Are there 3 or more signals together? 4. Intuition. What does your gut sense, even without proof? 5. Compassion. Instead of confrontation, create safety to invite truth. And remember this, not every lie needs to be confronted. Sometimes people lie to themselves just to keep moving. Sometimes they're not ready to face the truth. Your job isn't to rip away their shield. It's to notice when it's up and decide how to respond. Maybe you wait. Maybe you nudge gently. Maybe you simply hold space. The art of reading minds isn't about exposing people. It's about understanding them. Now, here's where we expand beyond typical guides. Digital deception. Online. People lie in different ways. They say LOL, but never laugh. They type long stories with suspicious amounts of detail. They dodge direct questions with vague replies. They delay answering simple things, but respond instantly to light banter. These are digital incongruences. And just like face-to-face, your task is to notice the mismatch between words and emotional vibe. Practice drill. Scroll through your messages. Spot where the tone feels forced, where details pile up unnecessarily, where pauses stretch too long. Your body knows when something's off. Train yourself to trust that signal. But here's the ethical compass. Never weaponize your skill. Don't use your perception to corner, humiliate, or manipulate. Reading minds is not about catching people. It's about caring enough to notice when their story doesn't match their soul. And when you respond with empathy, you give them a chance to be real. So as you move through your day, keep this lens. When someone's words feel hollow, when their tone wavers, when their body contradicts their story, pause. Don't accuse, don't attack. Just notice, just ask, just listen. You'll be amazed how often the truth comes rushing out. Not because you forced it, but because you created the one thing people need most, a safe place to be honest. And that's the deeper power. Reading deception is not about busting liars. It's about uncovering the fears behind the mask, the truths hiding under the perfy. You've sharpened your radar for deception, learning to sense when stories don't line up with emotions. But now it's time to step into the territory that many people crave, yet misunderstand. Influence. Influence isn't about tricking or pushing people into choices they don't want. That's manipulation. Manipulation creates compliance, but it destroys trust. Real influence creates cooperation, respect, and loyalty. It's not about control. It's about guidance, helping someone move in a direction that's good for both of you, without ever violating their freedom. Here's the truth. You're influencing people all the time, whether you realize it or not. Your tone influences whether your child feels safe to confide in you. Your posture influences whether your team feels confident in your leadership. Your energy influences whether your friend relaxes or tenses up in your presence. Influence is not a tool you pick up once in a while. It's the air you breathe in relationships. The question is, are you doing it unconsciously or intentionally? So how do you influence without manipulation? Start with the foundation, connection. People don't follow logic. They follow trust. Before anyone lets you guide them, they need to feel you see them, respect them, and value them. Without connection, influence feels like pressure. With connection, influence feels like cooperation. That's why everything you've learned so far, observation, mirroring, empathy, wasn't just practice. It was preparation for this moment. Once connection is built, one of the most powerful forces you can use is the rule of reciprocity. Humans are wired to return what they're given. When someone offers kindness, we feel the urge to give kindness back. When someone shares, we want to share. If you want to influence, start by giving. Give attention, give praise, give help. When your colleague feels uplifted by you, they naturally open their mind to your ideas. When your partner feels seen and supported, they're more likely to meet you halfway. Influence that begins with generosity is lasting, but generosity alone isn't enough. The way you frame information matters as much as the information itself. Framing is the art of setting the stage. For example, if you say, "This idea might sound crazy," you've primed people to see it as strange before they've even heard it. But if you say, "Here's an interesting idea worth exploring," you've primed them for curiosity. Same idea, different frame, completely different reception. Framing is like seasoning. It can make the same dish taste delightful or unappetizing. Here's a simple tweak. Instead of saying, "You should exercise more," which sounds like an order, you say, "I've been taking short walks every morning, and I feel so much better." Have you ever tried that? You're not commanding. You're inviting. Stories and personal frames disarm resistance. That's influence without manipulation. Another tool is verbal mirroring. Just as you mirrored body language earlier, now you mirror language patterns. If someone says, "I just don't see how this will work," use visual words in your reply. Let's look at the big picture. If they say, "This doesn't feel right," use kinesthetic words. What would make this feel comfortable? If they say, "That sounds off to me," use auditory words. Let's talk through the details. When you step into their linguistic world, they feel deeply understood, and that makes them far more open to your influence. But one of the most underestimated influence tools is the question. Commands trigger resistance. Questions trigger ownership. You need to change your attitude, provokes defensiveness. But what could you shift today to feel better? Invites reflection. The idea feels like it came from them, not you, and people are far more likely to act on their own ideas. Influence through questions is subtle, respectful, and powerful. Now let's take it deeper. Emotional anchoring. Emotions are states that can be linked to cues. For example, if someone feels calm when you guide them through a deep breath, and you gently touch their shoulder in that moment, their brain links the calm with your gesture. Later, when you repeat the touch, the calm resurfaces. Anchoring doesn't have to be physical. It could be pointing to an image, using a phrase, or even nodding at the right moment. Done ethically, it helps people access their best states when they need them most. Beyond anchoring, remember the silent power of nonverbal influence. Your body speaks louder than your voice. Open posture conveys confidence and receptivity. Pauses after key points signal importance. Nodding encourages agreement. Smiling with warmth builds trust faster than any argument. Influence is not just what you say, it's the way your presence makes people feel. And then there's priming. Priming is planting seeds before the main message. If you say, "We're a team that values innovation," before pitching a new idea, you've primed their brain to embrace novelty. If you say, "I know you care about fairness," before negotiating, you've primed them to consider equity. The setup influences how the idea is received. People think persuasion happens in the argument itself, but often it happens in the framing that comes before. Here's another secret. Certainty is contagious. When you speak with conviction, not arrogance, but grounded belief, people lean in. They borrow your confidence. Think about the last time you followed someone's advice, simply because they seemed absolutely sure. If you're tentative, others doubt you. If you're calm and certain, others relax into your leadership. The key is believing your own words first. Influence starts with your inner state. But here's the golden rule. Never violate consent. Influence ends the moment you push against someone's boundaries. If they say no, respect it. If they need space, give it. If they're not ready, wait. Forcing your perspective may get you compliance, but it will cost you trust. Real influence honors freedom. It's not about bending people to your will. It's about aligning with their values and walking together. Let's see this in practice. Imagine a team that's disengaged and frustrated. A manipulative leader might bark orders, guilt trip, or use fear. That might create short-term results, but long-term resentment. A skilled influencer does something different. They listen first. They mirror the team's language. They frame goals in terms of shared values. They ask, what small win can we aim for this week? They celebrate effort, not just results. Over time, morale shifts. The team moves in sync, not because they were forced, but because they were inspired. Or, take parenting. A parent says, do your homework now. The child resists. Instead, the parent might try. What's one subject you'd like to finish first, so you feel lighter tonight? The child still does homework, but it feels like their choice. That's influence through respect. In daily life, influence is everywhere. When you comfort a friend, when you pitch an idea, when you guide a conversation, you're influencing. The question is whether you do it clumsily, pushing and pulling, or gracefully, aligning and guiding. Influence without manipulation is graceful power. So, as you step forward, remember the tools. Build trust first. Give before asking. Frame with care. Mirror language. Ask questions. Anchor positive emotions. Prime with intention. Carry yourself with certainty. And always respect consent. Use these, and you'll find yourself shaping outcomes without force, inspiring change without pressure, and leading people in ways that make them feel stronger, not smaller. Because the art of influence is not about getting your way. It's about creating a way together. And when you master that, you're not just reading minds, you're guiding them with empathy, clarity, and respect. You've learned to guide others with influence that honors trust. But influence by itself isn't enough. To sustain it, to deepen it, you need the glue that holds all human connection together: emotional intelligence. If reading body language and decoding words is like learning grammar and vocabulary, emotional intelligence is the ability to actually speak the language of human feeling in real time. Without it, your skills remain mechanical. With it, they become alive, fluid, and deeply human. Here's the raw truth. People act on emotion before they act on logic. Decisions are not spreadsheets. They're surges of feeling that logic later justifies. That's why the most persuasive argument falls flat if the emotional tone is wrong. And the simplest gesture, a reassuring nod, a calm pause, can sway more than 100 clever words. If you want to read minds fully, you must learn not only to spot emotions in others, but also to manage your own in the moment. So, what does emotional intelligence look like in action? First, it's recognition. You're watching for the signals that emotions send before words even appear. Tension in the jaw, blinking that speeds up, a smile stretched too thin, sudden silence. These are whispers of an emotional shift. You don't wait for someone to declare, "I'm anxious." You notice it as it blooms. The sooner you recognize, the more gracefully you can respond. Second, it's matching. If someone is down, blasting them with hyperpositivity creates emotional static. You've probably felt it. You confide to a friend that you're stressed, and they chirp, "Cheer up." Instead of comfort, you feel dismissed. Emotional intelligence says, first match, then guide. Meet their tone with empathy. That sounds rough. Want to talk about it? And only after you've joined them can you gently lift them. Matching is pacing the emotional rhythm before you try to change it. Third, it's self-awareness. You're not just reading others, they're reading you. 2, your posture, your micro-expressions, the sharpness in your voice. These all broadcast your mood. If you enter a room irritated, no matter what words you use. People pick up on it. Emotional intelligence means checking yourself. How do I feel right now? What am I projecting? Is my state helping this moment or hurting it? You don't have to suppress feelings. You manage them so they serve the connection instead of sabotaging it. Here's a small but powerful practice. Take one conscious breath before responding to anything emotional. That single pause grounds you. Instead of reacting from impulse, you respond from clarity. Emotional storms lose their grip on you. Fourth, it's language choice. Words carry emotional weight beyond their meaning. Why did you do that? Feels accusatory. What made you decide that? Feels curious. Calm down usually escalates anger. I'm here with you. Take your time usually softens it. Emotional intelligence is choosing words with care, aligning tone and intent so your message lands gently instead of harshly. Now let's zoom out. Emotions don't just exist in individuals. They ripple through groups. Every team, family, or crowd has a social field, an emotional atmosphere you can feel the moment you walk in. Maybe it's buzzing with excitement. Maybe it's thick with tension. Maybe it's drained with fatigue. Leaders who ignore the group emotion fail to connect. Leaders who sense it can shift it. They ask, is this group open or closed, leaning in or pulling away? Once you know the climate, you can set the thermostat with your tone, presence, and pacing. For example, imagine you walk into a meeting and the air feels heavy. Everyone's slouched, voices flat. If you launch straight into high-energy enthusiasm, you'll feel like static on the wrong frequency. Instead, acknowledge the mood. Feels like it's been a long day. That recognition alone earns trust. Then, slowly, you inject energy, a light story, a question that sparks engagement. The group rises with you because you didn't fight their state. You tuned to it first. But emotional intelligence is not just about empathy. It's also about boundaries. Here's a trap many fall into: emotional absorption. You feel so deeply with others that you get swallowed by their storm. A friend vents their anger, and suddenly you're angry too. A colleague spirals into stress, and you spiral with them. Empathy becomes overload. Emotional intelligence means staying grounded. You feel with them, but you don't drown with them. You hold a calm center, like an anchor in rough waters. That calm presence is what allows you to lead them back to steadiness. This is where breath again becomes your ally. Each time someone's emotions pull at you, inhale consciously, feel your feet on the ground, and anchor. That moment of presence is the difference between being swept away and being the lighthouse. Let's bring this to life with a story. A team is burned out, tired, demotivated, on the edge of collapse. The leader has tried pushing harder, offering solutions, setting stricter goals. Nothing works. Then one day, she walks in differently. She says, "I can feel that something's off, and I realize I haven't been listening well. I'm here now. Can we talk?" The room softens. Walls crumble. Some cry, some sigh. But honesty floods in. She didn't fix the problem with strategy. She fixed it with emotional presence. That's emotional intelligence, leading feelings before leading tasks. Here are some drills to sharpen your EI. Emotion. Spotting. Spend a day identifying subtle emotions in strangers, at the store, on a train. Guess stress, joy, boredom. Check if your instincts align with behavior. Pause. Practice. Before replying in an emotional conversation, take a slow breath and soften your posture. Notice how your response shifts. Language swap. Replace accusatory phrases with curious ones. Swap why for what made you. Notice the difference in reactions. Room scan. Each time you enter a group, pause. What's the emotional weather? Heavy, light, tense. Then adjust your presence like a thermostat. Remember, emotions are not obstacles. They're guides. They show you what someone values, fears, or needs. When you tune into them, you stop guessing and start understanding. And here's the deepest truth. Emotional intelligence is not about reading thoughts. It's about reading hearts. When people feel that you can sense their emotions, respect them, and manage your own, they trust you more than any clever words could earn. They relax in your presence. They lean toward you instead of away. So, as you continue this journey, don't just ask, what are they thinking? Ask, what are they feeling? Then ask, what am I feeling? And how can I shape it? Master that, and you won't just read minds. You'll guide them, support them, and connect with them in ways that transform every relationship you touch. By now, you've built a toolkit that includes observation, mirroring, decoding words, sensing deception, guiding with influence, and recognizing emotions in real time. The pieces are coming together. But here's the challenge. Skills mean nothing if they stay trapped in theory. The real art begins when you weave them into daily life, seamlessly, so that every conversation, every meeting, every quiet moment with a loved one becomes a chance to read minds and connect more deeply. This is where you move from practice to presence. Let's start small, with ordinary conversations. Most people listen to reply. They're already rehearsing their answer while the other person is still talking. You're going to shift. You're going to listen to understand. That means you not only hear the words, you observe the pauses, the tone, the energy. Your eyes track their micro-expressions. Your body feels their rhythm. When their words and body don't match, you don't ignore it. You lean in with care. Someone says, "I'm fine," but their voice is flat. You don't push past it. You respond, "You don't sound fine. Want to talk?" Suddenly, the conversation dives beneath the surface. That's daily mind reading in its simplest, most powerful form. Now think about work. Meetings are theaters of hidden signals. One person is nodding politely, but their feet are aimed at the door. Another is leaning back, arms crossed, but eyes sharp with unspoken disagreement. Most people bulldoze through, missing these cues. Not you. You pause. You check in. You seem hesitant. Do you have a concern? That single question unlocks what no one else dared ask. Suddenly, the meeting isn't shallow politeness. It's honest dialogue. That's leadership born of perception. But it's not just about reading others. It's about adjusting your own delivery. Imagine you're pitching an idea and sense tension in the room. Instead of plowing ahead, you soften your tone, open your posture, ask questions. Influence flows not from insisting, but from aligning with the emotional state of the room and guiding it. This is how great leaders turn resistance into rapport. Shift now to relationships. Every bond thrives on unspoken understanding. If your partner withdraws, responds in short phrases, or their smile feels less bright, you don't wait weeks for them to explode. You notice. You ask, "What's going on in there? You seem quieter tonight." That gentle presence prevents distance from hardening into walls. Or with children, who often lack words for feelings, you tune into posture, play patterns, silences. You catch storms before they erupt, and you guide with empathy rather than force. Reading minds at home doesn't mean snooping. It means caring enough to notice. And when it comes to conflict, mind reading is your de-escalation tool. Arguments usually aren't about the topic. They're about ignored signals. If someone is angry, matching their intensity first shows them you understand. You stand tall, speak firmly, acknowledge their passion. Then, slowly, you ease your tone, drop your shoulders, soften your gaze. They unconsciously follow. Instead of two fires clashing, you become the water that absorbs and cools. This works not just with strangers or co-workers, but with family, partners, anyone you love. When you master emotional pacing, fights become dialogues. Let's not forget social settings. Walking into a room full of strangers can feel overwhelming, but with mind reading, you stop trying to control the environment. You scan. Who's the center of gravity? Who's anxious in the corner? Who's relaxed and open? Instead of barging in, you match the pace of the group. You mirror the energy. You connect with one person, then another. Before long, the whole room feels easier because you entered not with force, but with alignment. Now consider sales or persuasion. Most think selling is about talking. In reality, it's about listening. A client may say, "I'll think about it," but their eyes dart to the exit and their shoulders stiffen. You know they're already gone. Or they lean forward, eyebrows raised. You know they're hooked, even if they're playing cool. Instead of sticking to a script, you adjust in real time, shaping your pitch to what their body and tone reveal. The best persuasion feels invisible because it feels like trust, not pressure. And yes, even with strangers, mind reading builds instant bonds. That moment when you meet someone and feel like you've known them forever, that's often the result of subtle mirroring and emotional calibration. You sit at a cafe, mirror their posture, reflect their calm or their excitement, and they feel, "This person gets me." The bond forms quickly because you didn't force it. You tuned in. Here's where we add drills to lock this into habit. The reflection journal. After each day, jot down moments you noticed incongruence. Did you check in? Did you miss it? What did you learn? The social compass. In group settings, track where feet point, who leans toward whom, write your guesses, then confirm if possible. The mirror test. Pick one person in your life and consciously mirror just one aspect, posture, tone, or energy. Notice if they relax or open up. Conflict calibration. Next argument. Instead of defending, match their intensity for a moment, then gradually soften. Notice if they follow. The key here is daily application. Reading minds isn't something you do in rare situations. It's a lens you carry everywhere. You notice the cashier's tight smile. You sense your colleague's impatience in a pause. You hear your partner's fatigue in the tone of, "I'm fine." You respond, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Slowly, it becomes less of a skill and more of who you are. Someone fully present. Someone people trust. And here's the payoff. Life feels richer. Conversations aren't noise. They're symphonies. Meetings aren't draining. They're maps of human emotion. Relationships aren't confusing. They're honest. Social interactions aren't intimidating. They're opportunities, because you're no longer blind to the 90% of communication most people miss. But let's add one more layer. Reading minds daily isn't about becoming hypervigilant or exhausting yourself by analyzing every twitch. It's about being attuned, not obsessed. You don't need to catch every signal. You just need to stay open, curious, empathetic, The goal isn't perfection, it's presence. And presence is what people crave most in a distracted world. So as you walk through life with these tools, remember, you're not just learning to decode signals. You're learning to honor people's inner worlds. Every time you pause to notice, every time you check in gently, every time you adjust your presence to meet someone's needs, you're building connection. And in the end, that's what makes this practice magical. Not the tricks, not the hacks, but the simple, powerful truth that when people feel seen, they feel human again. By now, you've stepped into a rhythm where observation, empathy, influence, and emotional intelligence flow together in your daily life. But there's still a deeper layer, the integration of mind-reading skills into the very fabric of who you are. It's one thing to practice exercises. It's another to live with a mindset of awareness, compassion, and clarity, so that every interaction becomes an opportunity to connect more meaningfully. Integration isn't about doing more. It's about being more. It's about carrying yourself in such a way that others feel your presence is safe, attentive, and trustworthy. Think of it like music. Once you've learned scales and chords, you stop thinking about them. You just play. That's what this stage is about, making mind reading less of a checklist and more of a natural melody. Start with presence. Presence is not just being physically in the room, it's showing up with your full attention. In a world addicted to distraction, presence feels like a gift. When you set down your phone, soften your gaze, and tune your whole body towards someone, you send the message, I'm here, only with you. That alone changes how people open up. Many people don't need answers, they need attention. Presence is the soil in which all your other skills grow. Next comes integration through empathy. Earlier, you practiced decoding cues. Now, you let empathy fill the space between cues and response. Someone's body tenses. They might be stressed. You could jump to solutions. But empathy says, pause, breathe, and validate. You seem tense. Rough day? That single moment of being understood often matters more than any solution. Integration means you stop rushing to fix and start offering presence as healing. Another level of integration is embodied congruence. You align your words, tone, and body so they deliver one clear message. When you say, I'm glad to see you, your smile, your eyes, your shoulders all carry the same warmth. People trust you because you're not split. You're whole. Congruence doesn't mean being upbeat all the time. It means matching your outer signals with your inner state. If you're sad, you admit it gently. If you're joyful, you let it radiate. Congruence creates trust, because people sense when there's nothing hidden. Here's where it gets practical. Scenarios. At work. Integration means you don't just use skills in meetings, you make them part of your leadership style. You notice when someone withdraws, you draw them back in. You sense when energy dips, you lighten the room. You build rapport not with tricks, but with steady awareness. People don't just respect you, they feel safer around you, and safety is the foundation of loyalty. In relationships, integration means your partner no longer has to spell out their every need. You anticipate. You notice when they're overwhelmed before they snap. You catch the flicker of joy before they speak. You validate feelings without judgment. Over time, they relax more deeply into the relationship because they feel, this person really sees me. That's intimacy beyond words. In conflict, integration means you don't panic or react defensively. You ground yourself. You read not just the argument, but the hurt beneath it. You slow your voice, soften your shoulders, and invite dialogue instead of war. Even if disagreements remain, the relationship survives because you protected connection while navigating tension. And here's a powerful dimension many overlook: integration with strangers. It's easy to practice with people you know, harder with those you don't. Yet strangers offer perfect training. The barista's tired eyes, the driver's clenched jaw, the fellow passenger's restless tapping, all invitations to notice humanity in the overlooked. A small smile, a patient word, a gentle acknowledgement can shift their day. That ripple effect spreads more than you realize. Integration also means tuning into yourself. Self-awareness is the quiet half of reading minds. If you ignore your own emotions, you'll misread others. If you're anxious, you'll project suspicion where there's none. If you're tired, you'll miss cues. Integration asks, am I aware of my own signals? Do my words, tone, and body align? Am I present with myself so I can be present with others? You can't read others clearly through a fogged lens, so keep yours clean with reflection, journaling, and self-checks. Let's add practical exercises that bring integration to life. The 3-breath rule. Before any conversation, take 3 conscious breaths. Notice your body, notice your state, align yourself before engaging. Micro check-in. Once an hour. Pause for 10 seconds. Ask, what's the emotional weather around me? What's the emotional weather within me? This tiny habit rewires your awareness. Daily debrief. At the end of the day, reflect. Where did I notice cues? Where did I respond with empathy? Where did I miss something? Each reflection strengthens your intuition. Silent presence. Drill. Sit with someone you trust in silence for a few minutes. Just notice their breathing, posture, micro-expressions. No words, just presence. It's harder than it sounds, and deeply revealing. Integration also includes ethics. With these skills, you could manipulate. You could steer people subtly without their consent. But the real power lies in restraint. Each time you choose honesty over manipulation, care over control, you strengthen not just your relationships, but your integrity. That integrity radiates in ways no technique can fake. People sense when you are safe, and when people feel safe with you, influence flows naturally. Think of integration as the final blending of science and soul. You've studied the mechanics, eyes, tone, posture, words. Now you allow compassion to animate them. You're no longer just a reader of minds. You're a builder of bridges. Bridges of trust, understanding, and connection. So, as you move into the world, let your skills dissolve into your being. No more checklist, no more performance, just presence, empathy, congruence, awareness. You'll notice how life shifts. Conversations deepen, conflicts ease, relationships strengthen, strangers smile more, and you, instead of feeling like an outsider looking in, feel woven into the flow of human connection. Because integration isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully yourself. Attentive, compassionate, present. That's the heart of this journey. That's what turns techniques into transformation. Integration has given you a sense of flow. Skills no longer feel like isolated tricks, but like natural extensions of who you are. Now let's stretch your vision further and explore how mind-reading skills operate in bigger, more dynamic arenas. Teams, communities, negotiations, leadership, and even high-stakes environments where words alone never tell the full story. This is where everything you've learned gets stress-tested against complexity. Think about the difference between one-on-one conversations and group dynamics. In a group, emotions ripple faster. One person's tension can infect the whole table. One person's enthusiasm can lift everyone. When you walk into a group setting, your job is to scan not only individuals, but also the overall emotional weather. Is the group open and curious, or guarded and skeptical? Is energy rising or sinking? Just like a musician listens to the key of a song before joining in, you need to feel the key of the group before you contribute. Here's the secret. In groups, people often suppress individual signals. They don't want to stand out, so they mask discomfort or disagreement. But the body leaks truth. The one colleague tapping a pen faster than usual. The pair exchanging glances. The person leaning back with crossed arms while everyone else leans in. These microfractures reveal undercurrents in the group mood. Notice them, and you'll know when the group is aligned and when it's only pretending. Take negotiations. Most assume negotiations are battles of logic. They're not. They're dances of emotion. The person across the table isn't just calculating numbers. They're protecting pride, status, security. If you only argue facts, you miss the heart of the matter. But if you read their signals, the flicker of relief when you mention fairness, the tightening jaw when you press too hard, you know where to pivot. You sense when to push, when to pause, when to offer silence that draws out what they're holding back. That silence, by the way, is one of your sharpest tools. People rush to fill it, often revealing more than they intended. Or think of leadership. Leaders who only give orders generate compliance. Leaders who read minds generate loyalty. Why? Because they sense what the group needs emotionally and respond before the words are spoken. A team member may never say, "I feel unappreciated," but if you catch their flat smile when praised, their hesitation to volunteer, their drop in energy, you can act. "I realize I haven't acknowledged your contribution enough. Thank you." That moment doesn't just lift one person, it shifts the culture. Let's dive into high-stakes environments. Imagine a crisis meeting where tension runs high. Logic alone won't calm the storm. Emotional intelligence will. You match the room's urgency first, acknowledge the pressure, then slowly guide toward solutions. Your calm tone, steady breathing, and open gestures act like anchors. People unconsciously mirror your steadiness without saying. Relax. You lead relaxation. That's influence in its most practical, life-saving form. But advanced application also includes anticipation. When you've trained your awareness, you don't just respond. You predict. You sense where the conversation is heading by subtle shifts. A customer asks more questions than usual about guarantees. They're revealing insecurity. A partner sighs before answering. They're bracing for conflict. By catching the pattern early, you adapt before problems erupt. That foresight is what makes skilled communicators seem almost psychic. They simply notice sooner. And don't overlook the digital realm. We live half our lives through screens, where body language is filtered or absent. But even here, cues exist. Response times reveal mood. Punctuation and emoji usage shift with emotion. Long, elaborate texts often signal anxiety or persuasion attempts, while brief, clipped replies can mean irritation or withdrawal. On video calls, micro delays, posture, or eye darting to side screens tell you if attention is slipping. Reading minds online isn't about spying. It's about tuning in to subtle rhythms most ignore. Here are a few advanced practices to sharpen your edge. The group scan drill. In meetings, before speaking, silently rank the emotional states of 3 people: engaged, resistant, neutral. Adjust your tone based on the dominant mood. The negotiation mirror. When someone makes a point, repeat their last few words as a question. It's too risky? This invites them to expand, revealing motives beneath the claim. The silence anchor. Intense talks. Pause for a slow breath instead of rushing to fill the space. Notice how often the other person fills it with honesty. Digital debrief. After key emails or messages, ask yourself, what mood was behind these words? Was there hesitation, eagerness, defensiveness? Train your sensitivity across mediums. Another layer of advanced application is ethical persuasion. Here, your power is immense. You can frame, prime, and guide. The question is, will you do it for mutual good or self-interest alone? Imagine you're in sales. You could push someone into a purchase they don't need by amplifying fear. Or you could guide them toward a choice that truly helps them by clarifying values they've hinted at but haven't voiced. Ethical persuasion isn't weakness. It's the strongest influence because it builds relationships that last. And finally, remember this: the higher the stakes, the more important it is to remain calm within yourself. Others' emotions will swirl like storms. Your temptation will be to absorb, react, or push back. But if you've trained presence, if you ground in your breath, anchor in your posture, you become the still point in the chaos. And people follow stillness. They trust it. They lean on it. That's what makes great negotiators, leaders, and connectors seem unshakable. They're not without emotion. They're simply steady enough to hold it. So, as you apply these skills in the world, expand your perspective. Don't just read one person, read the field. Don't just decode the surface, sense the currents underneath. Don't just respond, anticipate, and above all, let your presence be the compass others orient around. Because when you embody this level of mind reading, you stop being a participant who's guessing at hidden motives. You become the one others look to, the one who can see clearly when emotions blur the room. That's advanced application. That's the art of moving from individual decoding to collective guidance. And once you step into this arena, your skills don't just shape conversations, they shape cultures, decisions, and destinies. You've now seen how mind reading scales from one-on-one moments to groups, negotiations, and even digital life. But there's another dimension, the long game. It's not about single conversations or quick wins. It's about weaving these skills into relationships that last years, even decades, because the real test of your ability isn't whether you can impress someone at a dinner party, but whether you can consistently build trust, diffuse conflict, and deepen connection over time. Let's start with the foundation: trust. Trust is not built by grand gestures. It's built by small, consistent signals. Every time you notice someone's mood without them telling you. Every time you validate instead of dismiss. Every time you match before you guide. You add a brick to the bridge of trust. Over weeks, months, years, those bricks become unshakable. People begin to feel, I don't have to explain myself to this person. They already see me. That's the essence of lasting connection. But the long game also means facing recurring patterns. Every relationship has cycles: joy, conflict, distance, closeness. Many people get trapped in the cycle because they only react in the moment. You're going to step higher. You'll recognize the patterns and anticipate them. For example, maybe your friend tends to withdraw during stress. Instead of chasing or blaming, you preempt it. I know you usually need space when things get heavy. I just want you to know I'm here when you're ready. That small acknowledgement prevents weeks of silent tension. In romantic relationships, this is gold. Instead of endless fights about surface topics, chores, schedules, habits, you look beneath to emotional drivers. The late-night argument about dishes, it's not about dishes. It's about one partner feeling unseen, the other feeling unappreciated. When you notice the mismatch, body tight, tone sharp, words trivial, you can step in gently. I don't think this is really about the plates. What are you feeling underneath? Suddenly, the conversation shifts from blame to vulnerability. That's how relationships endure. At work, the long game of mind reading is culture building. A single empathetic meeting may win you applause, but repeated empathy creates a culture where people feel safe to speak. Leaders who consistently scan the room, acknowledge hidden emotions, and respect signals set the tone for everyone else. Over time, that culture outperforms any strategy because humans thrive where they feel understood. Now let's talk about conflict over time. You can't avoid conflict. Life guarantees it. But the question is whether conflict becomes poison or fertilizer. Without emotional intelligence, conflict corrodes. With mind-reading skills, conflict can deepen trust. Imagine a friend lashes out after weeks of silence. Instead of retaliating, you read the exhaustion in their face, the shame in their lowered eyes. You say, "I can tell you're hurting. Talk to me." That pivot changes conflict into intimacy. Over time, people remember not the fights, but the way you handled them. Here's a deeper layer: repair. No matter how skilled you are, you will misread signals, you will miss cues, you will hurt people unintentionally. The long game depends on repair. When you sense someone pulling away, when their eyes no longer meet yours, when their responses shorten, you don't let pride block you. You say, "I think I messed up. Can we reset?" Repair doesn't erase mistakes. It strengthens trust by proving you value the bond more than being right. But the long game isn't just about others. It's about you. To sustain these skills, you must practice emotional self-care. Reading minds can feel draining if you forget to recharge. Just as athletes rest muscles, you must rest perception. Sometimes that means stepping away from social noise, being quiet with yourself, journaling, walking, breathing. Because the clearer your own mind, the clearer you read others. If you're cluttered with stress, you'll project confusion. Long-term clarity comes from tending to your own emotional landscape. Practical long-game exercises include pattern journaling. Track recurring emotional patterns in your closest relationships. Do they withdraw? Get sarcastic. Get louder. Anticipate. Don't just react. Repair ritual. When you misread or misstep, practice a consistent repair phrase. I value you more than being right. Help me understand. Culture scan. At work or home, step back once a month and ask, what's the overall emotional climate? Safe, tense, energized? Adjust your presence accordingly. Recharge routine. Schedule time for solitude, breathwork, or creativity. Protect your inner clarity as fiercely as you protect connection. Here's something competitors never emphasize: legacy. When you consistently read minds with empathy, you leave people changed. Years later, They may not remember your exact words, but they'll remember how you made them feel seen. They'll remember the way you caught their unspoken signals, the way you respected their silences, the way you anchored them when they wavered. That's your imprint. And legacies aren't built by force. They're built by repeated moments of presence. Think of the teachers, mentors, or friends who shaped your life. Chances are, they weren't the loudest or most logical. They were the ones who noticed you when you felt invisible. That's what you're becoming. A person whose very presence tells others, you matter, even when you don't say a word. So the long game of mind reading isn't about dazzling others with psychic tricks. It's about consistency. It's about showing up again and again with awareness, empathy, and integrity. And when you do that, you don't just connect in the moment. You build bonds that weather storms, cultures that thrive, and relationships that last a lifetime. Step into a crowded room. Laughter here, nervous chatter there, the faint clink of glasses in the background. Energy hums, overlapping currents of excitement, insecurity, curiosity. Most people enter such a space scanning for their own safety. Who do I know? Who looks approachable? But you? You enter with a new lens. You read the emotional weather, tune your antenna to unspoken signals, and move with confidence that doesn't shout, but resonates. This is where mind reading transforms social life. Social confidence isn't arrogance. It's not barging in, telling jokes too loudly, or dominating the air. True confidence is quiet certainty. You can connect because you know how to listen, observe, and respond in real time. You don't need to plan every word. You rely on presence. That's why people feel drawn to you. Not because you perform, but because you pay attention. Imagine walking into a party where you know no one. The anxious mind says, "What do I say?" Your new mind says, "What do I notice?" You scan, a cluster leaning in close, a pair on the outskirts, someone nursing a drink with shoulders curled inward. Right away, you spot who's open, who's withdrawn, where energy flows. Instead of panicking, you approach with curiosity. Looks like you found the quiet corner. Mind if I join? You've just made entry effortless because you matched their state. Now think about networking events. Everyone tries to pitch themselves, throwing business cards like confetti. But people remember not the smooth talkers. They remember the ones who saw them. When you tilt your body towards someone, mirror their pace, and ask questions shaped by subtle cues. You lit up when you mentioned your project. What excites you about it? You cut through the noise. In a sea of performers, you stand out as real. Social confidence also shines in friend groups. Every group has dynamics. The dominant voice, the quiet thinker, the joker who hides nerves in humor. If you can read these roles, you can balance them. You draw out the quiet one with gentle prompts. You affirm the joker without letting them mask pain. You respect the leader while softening their edges. People sense harmony around you because you intuitively hold space for each role. And let's not forget dating. This is where mind reading feels almost magical. Instead of overanalyzing what to say, you let body language guide you. If your date leans closer, eyes widening, you deepen the story. If they glance away, shoulders tightening, you soften, shift, or ask a question. You notice when their laugh is real versus polite, when silence is comfortable versus tense. That awareness builds chemistry faster than clever lines ever could, because romance thrives not on words, but on feeling understood. Social confidence isn't about perfection. It's about recovery. You will misstep. You'll make a joke that falls flat. You'll interrupt without realizing. Old you might spiral in shame. New you reads the moment, acknowledges with warmth. Wow, that didn't land, did it? And laughs with them. Instead of breaking rapport, you strengthen it with humility. People trust those who can fail lightly. Here are drills for social confidence. Room scan. Ritual. When you enter any room, pause 10 seconds. Scan posture, group spacing, tone. Label the emotional weather. Then choose your entry. Micro-mirroring. Match just one cue from the person you're with. Tempo, tone, or gesture. Watch as they relax unconsciously. Curiosity. Anchor. Each time you talk, focus on one detail they light up about. Ask deeper. Make them the star. Recovery practice. Next time you slip, name it playfully instead of hiding it. See how connection strengthens, even beyond parties or dates. Social confidence shows in everyday encounters. The barista, the neighbor, the stranger on the train. You practice small acknowledgments, micro smiles, gentle curiosity. Each moment is rehearsal. Each moment builds the identity. I'm someone who can connect anywhere. Over time, fear fades, not because you never feel it, but because you've trained yourself to act with presence despite it. What competitors often miss is this. Confidence isn't about dominance, it's about attunement. The loudest person in the room may attract attention, but the most attuned person creates belonging. And belonging is what people crave more than spectacle. So you walk into social spaces differently now, not armored, not desperate, but present, observant, responsive. People feel safer around you because you see them. They laugh more, open more, lean in more, and you, instead of shrinking or overcompensating, move with natural ease. That's not performance. That's mastery of mind reading woven into social life. The path you've walked so far has taken you from curiosity to clarity, from raw observation to influence, from decoding signals to integrating presence. But there's still one more turn to make before this journey feels complete. The step from using mind reading for yourself to using it for the greater good. This is where your personal mastery becomes a force for communities, families, and even society. Think about it. So much conflict, division, and loneliness in the world comes from one thing: people not feeling seen. Miscommunication starts wars in families and in nations alike. Bridges collapse when no one listens beneath the words. Now imagine if more people carried the skills you've been cultivating, skills of empathy, observation, and authentic presence. Imagine workplaces where leaders sensed burnout before it spiraled, schools where teachers saw the child's unspoken pain, homes where parents read their kids' silences instead of punishing their behavior. You begin to see, mind reading isn't a trick, it's a medicine. Your role, then, is not just to use these skills for advantage, but to model them. When you listen fully, you show others how to listen. When you validate instead of dismiss, you teach by example. Humans are imitators. We copy emotional tone like we copy accents. Your steady presence becomes contagious. In a world addicted to distraction, you become the rare mirror of attention. People will feel different around you, and they'll crave more of it. This doesn't mean you must become a saint. It means you choose small, repeatable actions. At work, you ask, "What's not being said in this meeting?" At home, you check in with a simple, "I notice you're quieter. Want to talk?" With strangers, you hold the door, offer the smile, notice their mood. These micro moments stack up over months, over years. They ripple outward. One person feels seen, treats the next person with more care, and the chain reaction grows. Here's the overlooked power. You don't need authority to lead. Presence itself is leadership. Anyone can raise their voice. Few can steady a room with silence. Anyone can argue. Few can disarm with empathy. Anyone can take. Few can notice. But when you practice these choices daily, people begin to orbit around you, not because you demanded it, but because you've become a rare space where they feel safe. Let's make it concrete. In teams, your awareness transforms productivity. Instead of endless shallow debates, you notice the one person who hasn't spoken, invite them in, and suddenly, the real breakthrough surfaces. In friendships, your steady presence turns you into the person others call, not because you fix everything, but because you listen better than anyone else. In family, your attention becomes the glue that holds people through storms. Instead of letting silence stretch into distance, you check in early. In community spaces, you shift the tone from judgment to curiosity. A single calm question can diffuse tension that might otherwise escalate. These aren't dramatic acts, they're consistent ones. Over time, they shape culture. And shaping culture is the quiet superpower of reading minds. But let's not ignore the inner side. You've been learning to see others. But the highest integration is learning to see yourself with the same empathy. To notice your own stress signals, to validate your own emotions, to repair when you misstep, to lead yourself gently. Because the truth is, you cannot offer presence to the world if you starve yourself of it. Your own congruence is the fuel. So here's your final call. Carry this into every space you touch. Use it not as manipulation, not as performance, but as connection. Let people feel the difference when you enter a room. That sense of calm attention, that rare gift of being seen. Let your presence be the quiet revolution that shifts not only your life, but the lives of those around you. And when someone asks, "How did you know what I was feeling without me saying a word?" you'll smile, because the answer isn't mystical. It's simple. You paid attention. Take a breath. Slow it down. Let everything you've absorbed settle into your chest. You've traveled through observation, through decoding, through empathy, through influence. You've practiced drills, imagined scenarios, reflected on real-life stories. And now, here you are, holding a skill set that feels less like a technique and more like a way of living. Notice how your body feels right now, a little more aware of your own breath, a little more present with the sounds around you. That's no accident. You've been training presence this whole time, and presence, more than anything, is the heart of reading minds. So, as you step back into daily life, remember, you don't need to catch every signal. You don't need to decode every pause. You simply need to stay curious, compassionate, and open. Each time you do, you remind people, without saying a word, that they matter. There will be days you miss cues. That's okay. Repair when you can. There will be days you feel drained. Rest, recharge, and return. This is not about perfection. It's about practice. A lifelong practice of connection. And here's the quiet reward. When you walk through life seeing people clearly, you also feel more seen. When you give attention generously, it returns to you in ways words can't capture. The world feels less sharp, less divided, less lonely.